These are video notes on multiplying and dividing rational numbers. Remember that a rational number is any number that can be written as a fraction, so it includes integers, fractions, repeating decimals, and terminating decimals. For our first example, we are going to divide two mixed numbers. We're dividing a negative by a positive, so our final answer will be negative. Until then, I'm going to ignore the negative and just work with the absolute values. So, first mixed number, we're going to change it to an improper fraction. We're going to multiply 5 times 5 and then add 1 to get 26, and that's going to be negative 26 fifths, divided by, and for my second mixed number, I'm going to multiply 2 times 3, which is 6, and then add 1 to get 7 out of 3, or 7/3. Remember, when we are dividing fractions, we're going to keep the first one the same, and we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to change division to multiplication, and then I'm going to flip 7/3, and it will become 3/7. And once again, that is the reciprocal. That's the name for when you flip a fraction. And then from here, I can multiply straight across the numerators and straight across the denominators. So I'm going to multiply negative 26 by 3. So we multiply 26 by 3, and that's going to be negative 78. And 5 times 7 is 35. And from here, my final step will be to turn it into a mixed number again. To change this back into a mixed number, I'm going to figure out how many times 35 goes into 78, which is twice. And after it goes in twice, there are 8 left. So that's going to give me 2 and 8 out of 35. And I'm going to keep my negative sign in front. So final answer is negative 2 and 8/35. Next, I'm going to multiply negative 2 and 5/10 by 3 and 6/10. I'm going to pretend that I'm multiplying 25 by 36, so I can write it correctly, but I'm going to do the multiplication as if it's just 25 multiplied by 36. So I'm going to multiply 5 times 6, which is 30. 6 times 2 is 12, plus 3 is 15. Then I'm going to put a 0 for a placeholder since I'm moving on to the next digit. And I'll multiply 3 times 5, which is 15. And then 3 times 2 plus 1 is 7. And now I can add up these digits. And now I need to figure out where my decimal point goes. If I had to estimate, this is close to negative 3. This one's close to 4. So my answer is going to be somewhere around negative 12. And again, that's just an estimate, but it at least helps me with place value. That tells me that if I put my decimal point here and had 9/10, that it wouldn't be reasonable. Same thing if I put it here or if I moved it over here. None of those are going to be reasonable or close to 12. The shortcut way to figure out where that goes is to just count. I started with 2 and 5/10 and 3 and 6/10. And so I can count that in the first number it was moved over 1 spot, the second number it was moved over 1 spot. So altogether, that's 2 places, and I'm going to move it 2 places from the right. So 1, 2, and then we had a negative multiplied by a positive, so that should come out to negative 9. And that'll be my final answer. Okay, next we're going to divide two decimals. The first number is always going to go inside the division box. The second number will always go outside. I will worry about positive and negative at the end. For now, I'm just going to use absolute values. Okay. As a side note, I'm going to set this up as a fraction, just so you can see how it works the same way. This expression as a fraction would look like this. Remember, we can show division by writing it as a fraction. Okay, from here, we're allowed to multiply the numerator and denominator by the same thing as long as we're consistent. I want this number over here to be a whole number. That makes the dividing a lot easier. And so in order to do that, I need to get my decimal point to move over 2 spots. The mathematical way to do that is to multiply by 100. I want to move it 2 spots, so I'm going to multiply it by a 1 with 2 zeros. I can prove that to you if I multiply 100 by 300ths. I'm going to get 0, 0, 3, and then I'm going to have to move my decimal point over 2 spots. So in the denominator, I'm going to have 3, and in the numerator, the same thing will apply. 100 multiplied by 1800ths. This will move over 2 spots, and that's going to be exactly 18, or in this case, negative 18. So if you're skipping the part where you show it as a fraction, you can show that you're multiplying it by 100 and multiplying it by 100 to move it over 2 spots. And now the answer to 18 divided by 3 is going to be the same as the answer to our original problem. And 3 goes into 18 exactly 6 times, and since we're dividing a negative by a positive, our final answer will be negative 6. So again, you always want to make sure the number you're dividing by needs to be a whole number. And then once that happens, you can line up your decimal points and divide just like normal. Okay, next we're going to multiply some fractions with a mixed number. I'm going to follow order of operations. So I'm going to multiply 4/5 by negative 7. And we know that we can take any integer and turn it into a fraction by just putting it over 1. Those are still equal, but now my numerators are lined up. And I've got a denominator I can multiply by. So I still have brackets. And now I can multiply straight across. So 4 times negative 7 is negative 28. And 5 times 1 is 5. And then I'm going to bring down everything else. So I had brackets, multiplication by negative 1/7. Okay, then from here, I'm just multiplying these two fractions by each other. And I'm going to do some simplifying first. I'm going to simplify the fraction negative 28/7. If I divide by 7 in both places, that's going to simplify down to negative 4 over 1. And that'll help make these numbers a little bit smaller. So we can change negative 28. If we divide by 7, that equals negative 4. And 7 divided by 7 is 1. If that part gets a little bit confusing, don't worry, you can multiply it straight across without doing that. You'll just have to do more simplifying at the end. Okay, next we're going to multiply negative 1 by negative 4, which is positive 4. And then we're going to multiply 1 by 5, which is just 5. So my final answer to this is going to be positive 4/5. Okay, next I want you to try these two problems, pause the video, and then once you're done, you can hit play and check your answer. All right, now that you've hopefully had a chance to try these on your own, we can check our answers. So for number 1, this is division of fractions. So I'm going to change it into a multiplication problem and multiply by the reciprocal. Then from here, negative 6 times negative 2 is 12, and 5 times 1 is 5. And then final step, change it into a mixed number. 5 goes into 12 twice, with 2/5 left over. So my final answer is 2 and 2/5. Okay, number 2, we needed to change 7 and 7/8 into an improper fraction. So we're going to multiply 7 times 8, and then we're going to add 7. And that comes out to 63/8. And then we'll bring down the 3/2. Now, if I use my simplifying shortcut first, I can actually make this a lot easier. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So both of those can simplify down to 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1, and negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. So in red, those go together. And now I get to multiply negative 1 times 63 times 1, which is negative 63, and 1 times 8 times 1, which is 8. And again, if you didn't simplify, you're just going to have bigger numbers, and you're going to have to simplify at the end. So not a big deal if you missed it. It just makes the problem easier. Okay, and final step, we're going to convert this back into a mixed number. 8 will go into 63 7 times. And there's going to be 7 out of 8 left over, which actually ends up being this number that we started with, except now we're multiplying by a negative, so our final answer is negative 7 and 7/8. Okay, again, I want you to try these two on your own. Pause the video and hit play when you're ready to see the solutions. All right, number 3, we're going to multiply 1 and 8/10 by negative 5 and 1/10. 8 times 1 is 8. 1 times 1 is 1. You need a 0 for a placeholder, and then 5 times 8 is 40. 5 times 1 plus 4 is 9. We're going to add up our digits, and then we're going to figure out how many places to move it over. So it was once here, once here. That's a total of 2 spots. And a positive multiplied by a negative is negative. So our final answer is negative 9 and 18/100. Now on to number 4, 3 and 6/10 divided by 6/1000. So 3 and 6/10 goes inside the division box. Then we're going to put 6/1000 on the outside, and because it's the thousandths place, I'm going to multiply by 1,000, which will slide my decimal over 3 places. So we're going to do that here. 1, 2, 3, and we'll fill in those empty spots with zeros. Multiply by 1,000. Okay, now we can write the problem as 3,600 divided by 6, and that'll have the same answer as our original problem. So 6 goes into 36 6 times. Remember that you're always going to line this up above whatever the last digit is of the number you're dividing into. So 6 times 6 is 36. Subtract, bring down the next 0. 6 goes into this 0 0 times. And then we're going to bring down our final 0, and 6 still goes into 0 0 times. And so that'll end up finishing out. So our final answer will be positive 600. All right, thank you for watching. Hopefully that helps you out a little bit with multiplying and dividing rational numbers.